Hey guys, just real quick before we get into the video today, I almost forgot to include this as probably the most important part of this video. This is not a sponsored or uh, review in any way, shape, or form. I feel like that goes without saying, just because we're such a small channel. But I didn't want to leave any room for any kind of like questions. I bought the mouse with my own money, of my own choice. I was not contacted by anybody. This is a review just of my own personal opinion and just desire to do so. So that's all. And my friends, what's going on? It's Ultimus, and please do forgive me as we go into this video as I'm fighting off a very sudden, abrupt sore throat. I've also got a throat lozenge in at the moment to try to help take out some of the pain. Not sure where it came from, but yeah, definitely feeling under the weather. But not going to stop us from getting videos out. So today's video is actually going to be a little bit different than what we normally do. I've never done this. I don't think I have. If I have, I forgot completely about it. But I wanted to do a review. A review of a new piece of equipment I got. The other day I upgraded my headset and my mouse. The headset because I actually needed one, and then the mouse just because I felt like kind of treating myself to something kind of cool and nice. But I ended up picking up the Corsair Scimitar, as you can see right here. It's plugged in. It's good to go. There it is. All right. Honest first impressions of the mouse as a physical, tangible thing. This is basically going to get broken down into two different portions here on the review. We're going to go over the actual physical mouse itself, and then we're going to go over the software. The mouse itself is actually really, really comfortable. It's good for at least my hands. I've got fairly large sized hands, and so I find that it's actually quite comfortable for my hands to rest on. I don't feel as though I have to paw it or claw it or anything like that. Like, my hand can rest very comfortably on it. It feels very solid. It doesn't feel like it's flimsy or going to break on me, like if I put too much pressure on it. One of the coolest things about the mouse is this feature right here, and that is, and it actually comes with this little screwdriver thing, as you can see right there. It comes with that bit. Cool. What you can do with this mouse, though, is you can actually, it's got a bit down here on the bottom where you can slide that screwdriver in, loosen it up, and then one of the coolest features about the mouse is that this side panel moves depending on, what's more comfortable for your hand. So rather than, having to get a completely different mouse or things like that, you're able to slide this and move this back and forth depending on where your gameplay style feels very, very comfortable. Oddly enough, mine feels very, very comfortable, typically right about in the center, because if it's too far forward, it's a little bit awkward, but it's like, maybe not quite in the center, but yeah, I guess like closer toward the front, just because, again, I do have bigger hands, and so it's less area for me to reach back, and again, as you can see, you just screw it back on, get it tight, and then the side panel does not move, which is quite nice. The cable itself is woven with a fiber or a cloth around it, very similar to how Razer does their mice as well. I suppose I should preference this. Before this, I have used a plethora of different mice, computer mice, gaming mice. I have used a few Logitech ones that I just personally wasn't a fan of. My first Razer mouse was a Razer Death Adder, which I thought was great, but eventually I found that I just wanted more buttons. I then eventually used a Razer Naga Molten, which I used for a good year and a half, 2 years, and then the 2012 came out, and I liked the button placing a little bit better on it. The buttons up here on top of the mouse, which is very similar to how a lot of MMO mice are doing their button placement now. And so I ended up selling that one to a friend, and I used the Naga 2012 for a very long time. I used that at the end of Cataclysm, all the way through Mist of Pandaria, and now just about all through WoD up until just yesterday. So that's kind of my basis of comparing these mice. Now, I replaced my Naga not because it was broken. The wheel was starting to go out on me. Not the wheel, sorry, one of the top mouse buttons there behind the wheel. I was finding that I was having to need to press it a little bit harder than I normally did. But again, I've gotten a good, 2 years use out of that mouse, so I wasn't too, brokenhearted about it. It wasn't like I just got it the other day and it broke. So all that to say, cool things again about this mouse is it is very comfortable. The button placement is nice. It does feel very solid. Being able to slide those number keys back and forth depending on where your need is for them, also very, very handy. Again, it feels very, very, very solid. I don't feel like I'm holding anything very flimsy. It's very comfortable. The texture on it is very smooth. It's not rough. It's not coarse either, but it's smooth, but your hand isn't going to slide off of it, if that makes sense. So again, I like that very, very much. But as soon as I opened up the package and I was able to actually hold the mouse, I was very, very happy with it. The actual physical, tangible mouse itself is quite nice, and I'm very happy with the purchase. It was $79.99. I was able to get the black version because I wasn't a big fan of the yellow. I've just never been a big fan of the yellow. So I dropped the money for the black version as opposed to just getting the yellow version. Now, all that aside, let's go ahead and see if there's anything else about the physical specs of the mouse that I should actually go over. The wheel itself, I guess we could talk about the wheel for a little bit. The wheel is very, very solid. It's not hyper responsive to where you spin it and all of a sudden it takes off, goes. It's very much just like, it just clicks as you turn it and doesn't turn any farther than you initially hit it, which is quite nice. The grip over here on the side is also very, very comfortable and very nice for my fingers at least to rest on, which again, because I got about this finger right here, this bad boy, will rest right there on the side of the mouse quite comfortably while the rest of me is doing my thing. Again, the buttons themselves on the side of the mouse are very responsive. They feel very solid. Again, I don't feel like I'm going to break them when I press them. They are not mechanical. At least they don't sound mechanical. If they're mechanical, they don't sound mechanical. I probably should have read up on that, I'm not going to lie. But I didn't, so there it is. If they are mechanical, dope. If they're not, they don't sound like it. They're very quiet. Again, which is very nice. But again, they are very solid. I don't feel like they're going to fall off on me. They don't move around or jiggle or anything like that on the side of the mouse. They stay stationary where they are. And there's a couple different textures on it. Like the first row is smooth. The second row has some texture on it. Third row is smooth. And then that last row has some texture on it to help kind of differentiate between the two different rows, which is quite nice. In my opinion, at least. So, with that all done, physical specs done, let's talk a little bit about the software and setting it up. So, hope you guys can see this well enough. We're going to try to go over this as quickly as we can. Figured this would be a little bit better so there's no distractions going on as far as like background goes. Just a plain black background. Hope you guys don't mind. Alright, so initially compared to Razer software, which is, again, my biggest comparison because it is what I have used the most before. I had to download the software itself. Like when I plugged in the mouse, there wasn't anything that prompted a download, which is fine. I don't think that's that big of a deal. Like it literally takes you 2 clicks to get to the website and download stuff, so that's not a problem at all. Make an account, all that kind of stuff, yada yada yada, the huge. Now there's a lot more to these settings, which at first was a little bit confusing. So I will go over that. Basically, I wasn't sure what to expect when I unplugged my Razer mouse, set it aside, plugged in my Corsair Scimitar, and went instead. One thing that was immediately noticeable was the side buttons did not work immediately. Originally, these right here were all unbound, or they had a specific other assignments, all that stuff, alright? So it wasn't that big of a deal, except none of my keybinds worked in WoW. So obviously that was initially a problem, and not a problem like as in a strike against the mouse, but it was just like, oh, I have to redo things. So what I ended up having to do was go through and basically assign each button here on the mouse to do certain things. So I just did it with the number pad, which is usually what the Razer mouse went directly for anyways. The Razer mouse, however, the moment you plug it in, directly connects with those buttons in games and with your desktop and things like that. So none of these were initially bound except for a couple of them. So obviously we have number pad keypad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Obviously left click, right click. Keypad 7, 8, 9, 10. And then there isn't anything back here because I don't actually often use those keys. But you could do like minus, plus, delete, all that kind of stuff like that, whatever you want. And again, you can bind them to whatever you want, which is quite nice. And then middle click is middle click. There's nothing that needs to be rebound there, obviously. And then this I have set to Alt right arrow and Alt left arrow from my keyboard, because that is also the commands that is going to hotkey your browser to go back and forward on web browsers and things like that. Which again, that was something that the Razer mouse automatically did. Those two top buttons are on the top of your mouse. Those automatically interacted with your browser and activated that front or forward or backwards key on the browser. So something to keep in mind, just if you get this mouse, plug it in, just know you'll have to rebind those keys. Once I figured it out, I felt like a dummy. It was a little frustrating at first, just because it kind of caught me off guard because I wasn't sure what to do. But all you have to do is go here to create new action, keystroke, put the name in, select which keystrokes it's going to count, all that stuff, and you can have that repeat, which is kind of cool if you're into that sort of thing, and delay between repeats, all that stuff like that. Lighting when start, you can mess with all that stuff, which is quite nice. You can have different settings set up for your DPI. This mouse does have a maximum setting of 12,000 DPI, which is quite high. I don't need anything. I mean, 7,000 is even pretty high, but I've gotten quite accustomed to it over the years, so it's just kind of where I enjoy having my mouse. I'm sorry, that was my throat lozenge almost jumping out of my mouth as I'm trying to talk. If I was smart, I would have waited and done this after my throat lozenge was done, but I didn't want my throat to start hurting. So we had to pick our battles here in this one. So what you can do is, again, you're able to adjust the DPI. There's a couple different settings. All this shows up down here on your desktop, which you can't see right now, but it is there, like the little toolbar icon. You can pull that up and you have the thing down there. Of course, you can also set the icon on your desktop, all that kind of stuff. You can even set key assignments on your mouse if you don't find that you use all the buttons like I do. Again, I like to have all the buttons assigned for stuff that isn't going to cause interference with keybinds, playing WoW. But you can say, hypothetically, have the two top mouse buttons, those ones behind the wheel scroll, they're assigned to, DPI up, DPI down, all that kind of stuff, if that's your jam. I suppose they could have that set to 12 and 11 since I don't actually use those keys for anything. Maybe I'll do that. So, that's the keys themselves, which is quite nice. Again, all the action listed tells you what you've got bound to things, which is pretty spiffy as well. You can find that down there. You can have different profiles and settings set too. So if you have like an MMO, a MOBA, an FPS setting, you can have all that right there. And once you go to like mouse settings there, as you can see, my mouse is a lot slower here. I'm moving my hand at the same pace. I go to default, all of a sudden they're a lot more responsive. So it's as simple as one click. And again, you can even assign those to keys on the mouse if, again, that's your jam. You can import, export files, all the stuff, which is actually kind of cool. At first I was like, why would I want to do that? But then I realized it'd be kind of cool to have a backup if I was restarting my computer, doing a clean install, or if I had a buddy who just really liked my mouse settings, I could probably email or send the file over, things like that. Useful random stuff, but it's kind of cool. It's a cool feature to have. I guess it's one of those things where it's like, we can do it, why not? To me, at least. So we have profiles, actions, all that kind of stuff, which does include macros, text, keystrokes, which we have all assigned there. Shortcuts, shortcuts for your computer, like if you want to open up your browser, all that good stuff there. DPI, of course, timers, the mouse itself, media control, which of course is, media players like iTunes, VLC media player, all those kinds of things like that. QuickTime, I suppose. So, lighting. What's really cool about this mouse is you can actually assign different lights to different portions of it. As you can see here, we got zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So let's just say, I'm personally a big fan of red. But let's do like blue here on that little logo in the back. We'll do, let's just go green there. And we'll go rainbow. Actually, we'll just rainbow it. For our mouse wheel, let's go bright pink. We're talking like pink Ranger pink. And then for the front color there, we'll just go ahead and go like just, I don't know. Just go white. Why not? So, now that we have our eclectic mouse wheel, our mouse colors set up, let's take this out. So now if you'll see here, which might be a little difficult because we have in the smaller camera down the corner, but as you can see, we have those side colors there. Rainbowing, We've got that middle mouse wheel pink, which we should move over here in front of my face so it's a little better to see. We've got the Corsair logo blue, and of course the stuff there in the center, which is white. Ah. My elbow almost slid off my desk there. So all in all, pretty cool as far as the customization settings go. Again, I'm a big fan of that stuff. Why? Because it's fun. Why not? I mean, we put time and money into this stuff, so why not make it fun? Makes it yours. So, huge fan of that. Definitely really cool to have the options and stuff like that, especially if you want to do like, it's 4th of July, so we're going to do a 4th of July colored mouse to celebrate. Or, you know, if it's more worldwide central holiday, it's Christmas, so we're going to do green and red to celebrate Christmas. So, big fan of that, having those options there. And then, of course, we already went over the performance and DPI. It's worth noting as well, not only can you adjust the DPI in it, but you can also adjust the pointer speed. So while the DPI is going to be higher as well, you can reduce the pointer speed as well if you're down for that. I, again, generally like to keep mine a little bit higher, just because I'm so used to it now. Definitely takes time. Now, if this is the first time, or this will be the first MMO mouse you've ever purchased, please do expect a learning curve. It is a little tricky just to get used to the mouse itself, having the buttons on the side, remembering which buttons are which, especially just all 12 of those on the side. Getting familiar with what's best and most efficient to keybind to those as well can get a little tricky. The Corsair mouse, at least in my box, did not come with any training stubs on it, like little plastic rubbery sticky nubs that you can put on there to help you kind of learn where certain buttons are at, which I was, again, totally fine with because I've already used the mouse. But if you're new to an MMO mouse, that might be a little bit of a problem for you. The software again itself was a little bit intimidating at first, just because I was not expecting this many options. But it's cool. I feel like with a little bit more, again, with all the options comes the complication and vice versa. So it's worth it to me now that I got it sorted out. Got my keybinds all sorted out, everything sorted for my web browser, all that good stuff there. But I think that's it, really. Again, I picked it up from Amazon. It was $79.99, I believe, is what the price point was, if I'm not mistaken. But so far, honestly, very, very happy with it. Whether or not I think it's better than a Razer Naga, I don't know if better is the optimum word, honestly. I just feel like they're so similar that, I don't know. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. Pros to the Razer Naga was that you just literally plugged it in and played and assigned your keybinds in-game, and that was it. It was already assigned to certain buttons, as opposed to this. Took a little bit more manual work, which, again, is fine, but just be prepared for that setup. Pros for this mouse, the Corsair Scimitar, as opposed to the Razer Naga, is, of course, being able to slide those number keys back and forth depending on where you want them, which, again, the Naga cannot do. But overall, it's actually quite comfortable even for someone with large hands. The cable threading is quality. The texture on the build of the mouse is quality. The user interface here on the software, again, is very friendly once you're willing to put in a couple minutes and learn it. But I'm sure for a lot of people it will be very simple. But again, I just was not expecting it, so I was just kind of caught off guard, which I was cool with. Just good we weren't recording our first impressions as we were installing the software. That would have been awkward. Yeah. So let me know what you guys think of the video. I can't necessarily do a whole lot of reviews because I just don't have money to drop on stuff all the time. But overall, very happy with the mouse. Worth the money so far. We'll give it a few months and see how it holds up with some rigorous arena matches and BGs. And now it's just a learning curve of learning to use a new mouse. Because it does feel different than a Naga. It definitely feels very different than a Naga as far as just build. It's a lot sleeker. It's not as fat towards the back. I guess you could say that the Razer Naga's got a little bit of a booty on it. Whereas this one is a little slimmer. That's awkward. But that being said, again, very comfortable. Just as always, anything new. No matter how similar it is, it's different. It's new. So learning to get used to it. Next couple of days should be interesting, but very happy with it overall. I'll probably be doing a review of my headset. The headset will be a little more straightforward than this. Not as many details to go into. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the headset anyways. Probably a lot of you actually use the headset. But I ended up picking up a Hyper X2 headset, which I will show right here just for kicks. This one, I know you guys have seen it a lot. There's no microphone on it because I don't need the microphone. I have my Blue Yeti, so I don't need the microphone on it, which is quite nice. But all that aside, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment if you enjoyed it. Also subscribe if you are interested in seeing more content. Again, we do daily World of Warcraft videos. Still muddling through that Skyrim LP and anything else we feel like playing. Having a ton of fun while we're at it. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this review helpful. If you were considering picking up a new mouse, but weren't really sure where to go, where to start, or if you were actually considering the Scimitar, and then deciding, of course, where to go from there. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. I know I personally am going to enjoy using my mouse for, then again, the next couple months at least to kind of break it in and see what happens with it. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.